Imagine that we were doing a survey and we were asking our participants how much driving they do per week and how much money they spend on gas per week. Once we finish our survey and we've collected our data, we create a scatter plot for number of miles driven per week and for amount of money spent on gas per week. Maybe our tick marks go up by 20s for number of miles driven per week. The tick marks that we would use would depend on what types of answers people gave us. But let's just say that these are our tick marks. And maybe for amount of money spent on gas, we're using tick marks of maybe maybe $10. So maybe 10, 20, 30, 40. This might not be completely realistic, but I'm just trying to make a point about what the shape will look like in the scatter plot. Because I'm not exactly sure how much money a person driving 40 miles per week would spend on gas unless I did some more calculations. I'm really just going to make up some numbers. The main point that we're trying to make is just what the shape will look like in the scatter plot. Let's say that 3 of our participants tell us that they drive 20 miles per week. So since these 3 people are doing a fairly low amount of driving per week, they're not going to be spending very much money on gas, which means that they'll fall somewhere near the low end of the number line for amount of money spent on gas. They're not all going to fall at the exact same place because those 3 people could be spending different amounts of money on gas, but all 3 of them will probably fall into the low area of the number line. So let's make up some dots for those 3 people. Let's say that they fall right here. So I'm saying that even though these 3 people are all driving 20 miles per week, they're not going to necessarily all be spending the exact same amount of money on gas because this person down here might be, this person up here at the top might be spending more money on gas because this person's car gets lower mileage, lower miles per gallon. And this person here might have a car that gets a higher number of miles per gallon, which means that they don't have to spend as much money on gas, even though they're driving 20 miles per week. So up here at the top, we might have a person driving a car that gets lower miles per gallon, which means they spend more money on gas. And this person down here might be getting lower miles per gallon, which would mean that they would be spending, they would have a higher miles per gallon, which means that they would be spending less money on gas. And they're all in this low area where they're not spending much money on gas. What if 3 people tell us that they're driving 40 miles per week? Well, those 3 people won't necessarily all be spending the same amount of money on gas, because those 3 people might be driving different cars that get different miles per gallon. So they're not all going to necessarily be at the same place over here, but they're all going to probably fall into a similar range. And the range that they fall into will be a little bit higher than the range that these people fell into, because these people are driving 20 more miles per week, which means they'll be spending more money on gas than these 3 people typically. So the range is going to be shifted up. Maybe it'll be shifted from here up to here. And then if 3 people tell us they're driving 60 miles per week, they're going to fall into an even higher range for money spent on gas. They'll be spending more money on gas since they're doing more driving, so they might be up here somewhere. So the range is moving up again. And the type of shape that we're seeing right now is a positive correlation. If you have a positive correlation, it means that people who are higher on the x-axis are usually also higher on the y-axis. So people who are higher on the x-axis tend to also be higher on the y-axis. In other words, as x goes up, y tends to go up along with it. And it makes sense that this would have a positive correlation, because when people drive more miles per week, they spend more money on gas. So we would say that this data right here is showing a positive correlation between these 2 variables. In other words, it's showing a positive correlation between number of miles driven per week and amount of money spent on gas per week.